Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. My name is Anthony, and today I'm going to talk about a few thoughts that you may want to consider when attempting to start a business. Now, there's a lot that I will not be able to encompass or encapsulate in this video. However, I hope that this will give you a small overview of a couple things that you may not have thought of. And then, of course, if there's other things that you're interested in or the presentation prompts a few additional questions on, I'm happy to dive in deeper. But let's dive into it. Let's hope that there's some concrete information in here that can help you get started, and we'll take it from there. All right, so the first thing that you want to consider is the location, right? Do you have space, right? Do you own the location? Are you leasing? Is this a virtual space, right? What do we mean by this, right? If you have your own home, or if you have an office building, you either own it or you lease it or you rent it. It's one of the three. Odds are you're most likely going to be renting or leasing. Very rare do you ever cross somebody that does any sort of sale and lease backs in these types of situations. And if you do, you're probably not a small business. You're probably a large corporation. The third PowerPoint bullet here, virtual, is where a lot of people are really focusing on now. It's the no overhead, low additional startup costs, work out of your room, work out of your apartment option. And this can be very useful for those with limited space. But this is one thing that you want to think about is where are you going to do this, right? And also, it's not always as simple as just virtual or non-virtual, right? So let's say that you have an eBay business or you're going to do some reselling of sorts. You need to have the virtual space, but then you still need to have some physical space for your inventory. So there's a lot of pieces here, but this is something that a lot of people don't think about before they dive into whatever they're going to do. If you were to scale your business, meaning that it's successful and that you need to grow it, do you have what it takes, or are you going to have to stop midway and go and get another, building or rent a place? This is actually something that's overlooked quite frequently, so it's something good that we want to touch on. The next thing is entity types. So this is the part where a lot of people don't focus on, and this is where people can get themselves in real trouble. So what different options are there out there, right? So you have sole proprietorship where you're using your own social security number. Essentially, the business is in your name, as in you. I have let's say a fruit stand, a vegetable stand, and it's under my social, right? I'm just paying taxes with additional income. And then all of a sudden, someone walks down the street, gets hurt, trips over a rolling watermelon, and sues me. I'm not protected, right? Because the business is in my name, they can come right after my assets, right? So that's one of the drawbacks, downsides to sole proprietorship. But there's a lot of times that it's used for practical reasons too, right? You're doing something on Etsy, you're doing some gig work, DoorDash, Uber, right? You don't need to necessarily start a company for it. You just need to, you're generating revenue under yourself, and there's a reason for it. You have your partnership type accounts, right? Where maybe you and a friend or family member want to go in and start a business. You have your partnership. You have your limited liability corporations, which is unique to a couple countries. I think right now we're up to two or three that have them, but it's really an American thing. It's a kind of a middle ground between a partnership and a corporation, and it really helps protect you in the event of anything that can go wrong from a client perspective. LLCs are extremely popular. They do require a tax ID. It's quite simple to obtain a tax ID. You can do it right from the IRS website. There is a small fee associated with it, and of course, if you are doing any sort of tax business or something like that, it is smart to consider again, seeking a professional tax advisor. It's not always something that you want to try to navigate yourself. The important thing to remember is there's things that you just don't know and don't even necessarily know what you don't know. So definitely important to consider if you're going the LLC route at some point at year end to consult maybe a tax advisor ahead of time. So that way you don't get yourself in over your head. There's nothing more disappointing than getting something going, getting real successful at it, and then getting hit with good old Uncle Sam, drawbacks. So definitely something to think about. And then the last option on here is your corporation, your S or C corp. I'm going to skip over that for now. If this is something that somebody is interested in, we can talk about that. So legal consideration. So I did talk a little bit about, the tax ID piece of incorporating under a tax ID, getting sued, the risk in the business failing, debt, tax permits, investors. There's a lot of things that you need to consider about the benefits of why you incorporate your business under what legal structure. Okay. It can get into multi hours of videos talking about it. So we're going to skip over this, but just think about legal considerations, pros and cons, okay, of what you need to do to get started. The next thing is supplies. Okay. Do you buy them outright? Are you getting subscription services to get these supplies? Are they rent to own or they lease? Let's talk about this for a minute. This is something that we can drill into. Let's say you're starting some sort of, I don't know, a dog grooming business and you want to, buy your supplies. Where do you source them from? Do you get them from Amazon? Do you go on Facebook Marketplace? Do you get them from a school that you go to? I don't know. That's up to you. But if you do, you got to have the capital to buy them outright. There's other things that often come into this, right? Things such as shampoos, conditioners, you're washing these dogs. You got, dog poop bags, whatever you need for this business to run. You're clipping the hair, you need clipper grease and oil and clippers, and you're sweeping up all the fur, yada, yada. Well, there's some things that you may benefit from having a reoccurring subscription. Now, this may not come in the beginning because you don't necessarily have the clientele or the volume to support that, but it's something that at a certain point, once you start getting the momentum or traction, it's more beneficial just to have it renewed and have it auto coming. And even sometimes if you don't necessarily use all of it at once, the power of buying in bulk and also these companies knowing that you're going to continue to buy in bulk can really drive that price per unit down of what you need. So something to consider. The rent to own and lease options for supplies are really more if you're in, the equipment game, right? So let's say you have a landscaping business and you don't necessarily have the credit or cash or capital to go out there and buy new equipment, or you're looking to get something that because your equipment broke and you need to come up with something real quick to continue making revenue and servicing client accounts. There's rent to own and lease options. These get a little bit deeper. There's a lot of pros and cons that you need to look into when weighing these out. So we'll skip over that, but something to consider. Let's hop to the next slide here. Okay, online presence. So before we dive too deep into this, let's do a quick recap. So we talked about, where's your business going to be? What do you need to legally consider? And then, what are some of the risks and benefits of each of those things? You're at the point now where you're like, you know what, Anthony, I'm good to go. I know what I'm going to do. I know I'm going to do this tax ID. I don't know about the taxes, but I'm going to go and get this tax ID. I trust that H&R Block is going to help me at year end. I even made an appointment and they told me they would help me. What do I do now? Great. Well, before we get too far down the road, you may want to think about what your website is going to look like. Now, there's different website hosts out there. You got Shopify, you got Wix, you got Oracle NetSuite. There's many. Just by me stating these names is not, in fact, a promotion of any of those websites. It's just simply stating certain ones that exist out in the ether. But you need to make sure that you have a website that not only is functioning, but looks good. And when I say functioning and looks good, that goes to what is the customer support from these websites offer. I'll use Shopify as an instance. Okay. They have a lot of customer support. There's also a lot of revenue that they have. So, that tells you that, they're still, they got a lot of clients out there and they're still doing good. Revenue doesn't always mean that, right? You can be a really successful business and have terrible customer service. We see and hear that all the time. But for Shopify, we have seen the reviews and we've seen some of the benefits. Wix is a new player that's emerging. I personally can't speak too much on them. I see a lot of them, a lot of ads coming up for them in the social media space. Is it people or bots? I don't know. But I'm going to be looking into that to learn more. But I do see a lot of positives from what I'm hearing. Now, once you have the website secured, you got the domain, you're posting everything, you may want to think about building out that website and how professional it's going to look. This is where inventory can come in play, and then also third-party services like Fiverr can really help. So if you're going to be selling product, meaning, hey, I'm going to be selling Pokemon cards, I'm going to be selling cell phone cords, whatever it is, you need to have some sort of inventory that is manageable both on your site and for the customers, including point of sale. And this is where when you say, well, Anthony, doesn't that come with it? No, right? Not everything comes with that. And this is where, if you, depending on what type of business you have, the customer support from these vendors is extremely important. Um, tying this all together, you get your website, you pick your website name, and you don't know how to build it, and YouTube isn't teaching you how to build it, you can go on Fiverr and find someone for a low cost that will build it at an hourly rate for you. You tell them what you want, they'll do it. So you don't have to spend the time learning it or doing it yourself. The inventory piece, you can also have them help on Fiverr. You can hire someone to help get your initial inventory up and running. And then from there, it's you maintaining the inventory, whether you're doing it yourself or if you have somebody that's helping you on your business side. The search engine optimization, API integrations, and social media, each one of these is different. The SEO is how well you're ranking in your online searches, right? So, where's the traffic coming from? Are you getting new clients? You know what I mean? Like, where are people viewing this? In other words, where's your reach? Who's your audience? Where's your reach? Are you gaining traction or are you losing traction, right? This is where some of these SEO, search tips come in. Social media is huge these days. You need to have a social media presence. That's a whole separate conversation, separate topic. Make another video on that if interested. And then lastly, we have API integrations. So, Shopify, Wix, we know that a lot of them do have API integrations. They're set up all that on the back end. But maybe you have an Etsy store and you want to plug into that, right? Maybe you're doing some sort of drop shipping and you want to plug that into eBay or something, or Amazon, right? Or anything. You need to make sure that there's some way, or you don't have any of that and you just want to make sure that, it's available if you need it. These are all things to consider when building out your online presence. Marketing and growth. So now you got your online presence. Maybe you skipped that part, but you're ready to hit the ground running. So we got promotional videos, business cards, word of mouth, referral programs, AdSense. You can go old school, physical coupons and email lists. Okay, let's talk a little bit about this. Promotional videos are helpful because these are things that you can stick out on TikTok, on Reels. You can get them in marketing, right? On YouTube, you can pay with AdSense, right? So you have YouTube, channels that are constantly coming onto the platform, going off the platform. It doesn't really matter, but for you, depending on their topic, you can get your product and platform out there on these channels, right? So promotional videos do help. It's also pretty important today to still have some sort of business cards. I can't tell you how many times I've been asked for a business card, and either I'm working for a corporate company that doesn't provide them because you're in the home office, or you're doing something small and you just never thought you needed it. A business card is important. I have Vista Print listed here. It's an example of someone that provides small business services. It is not an endorsement for them. Word of mouth is still extremely important. Word of mouth, I would say, is probably the most important because if you have people trashing your business, nothing's going to happen. And then think about it. You see these negative reviews online. People do not take the time to write a positive review, but they will always write a negative review. Look at Burger King, Wendy's, and McDonald's. They will literally give you a free burger to give them a review. People throw the receipt right in the trash. You can eat a free Whopper every day if you do it right. Right? There's ways to do this. You still don't do it, but yet if they piss you off, they're giving you $25 in free food, right? So this is something to consider about why word of mouth is so important. The referral programs, this is something that a lot of people don't think about at the beginning of their business, but it's a way to really help get traction at the beginning. Humans are innately greedy. So if you give others an incentive to help you grow your business, they will. No one wants to help you grow your stuff for free. They just don't. And if anyone does, you got to wonder why. So it's something to think about. Google AdSense, again, not a promotion or endorsement, another tool out there that can help you with your marketing and growth. Physical mailings and coupons. I can't tell you how many times, first off, very few people get mail these days because it's going to your email. Most people aren't checking their emails, but yet you still find even people in their 20s and 30s and teens walking in with physical coupons because when something is touchable, feelable, seeable, it's real. So don't underestimate the value of having physical coupons or flyers. And then lastly, email lists. Okay, this is important. I'm going to hold off on this. I'm going to get into this in the next tab. But this goes into managing clients, right? So now, you're working on growing your business. You now have some sort of clients. Maybe you had to start off giving free services at first to get your clients, but you need a place to store that client info. and to be able to look at client data. And this goes into, managing your business down the road. It may not seem pertinent at the beginning, but I can tell you for a fact that having this information is extremely key, especially for future business ventures, and then also to continue to grow your business. So managing client data in a centralized relationship management software, an example of one, Salesforce, okay? That's not one that necessarily you're going to use. There's many out there. Again, not a promotion. You see Zendesk out there, Hubify, all these different things that exist out there to help you. Explore what they have out there, see what one works for you. But it should contain at minimum the phone numbers, contact information, including emails and addresses, and other key customer profile information. This is not mentioned in here, but please remember that if you're doing business internationally with EU clients or California, we have the CCPA, the California Consumer Privacy Policy. And, this is something that you need to be aware of and something you may not be aware of. So again, going back to the legal pieces of running a business, all something that you need to have in mind and be considered. Closing out here, scheduling tools, short page, but appointment tracking, scheduled ones, Calendly, popular tools. You can do this with free. Microsoft Suite has a lot of scheduling tools now. It almost seems as if the more Microsoft Suite tools that you use, the more integrated they actually are. You have a variety of options. And if you don't have the money or tools wherewithal to operate all of these, you can simply go old school and get a physical calendar. Do not underestimate a pen and paper with a calendar or a whiteboard, with a Sharpie, any sort of things like that, but have a visual and a way for reminders. Okay. Another thing to think about with these is reaching out to your clients as reminders. This is key. This is key and it's not looked at. But if you reach out to your clients, why do you think it's so popular now for these companies to send you text reminders that ask you to confirm? It's the engagement, right? They're looking for the engaged clients. That's a way to know that they're still committed. There's nothing, technically, if you're going to the doctor and the secretary's calling and, you don't answer the phone, the doctor doesn't even know you didn't answer. He's not concerned you're not showing up tomorrow, but I can tell you the person that owns the business is. So depending what role you play, it's important to have these tools ready and available. And then finally, in summary, right? This is just, a couple key things that will allow you to think about, what you want to do. So be realistic about the time you can commit. How much time can you truly commit to what you're trying to do? Running a business can be all in. And at certain points, you need to know, the last point is knowing when to walk away. But we want to keep this positive. It's hard to keep positive when I say don't bring people in at the beginning, but the reason I say try to not bring as many people in at the beginning is because it's important for you as the person that is starting the business to understand what you're getting into and to know all aspects and facets of the business. Finally, outside in mentality, first in, last out, having trackable, measurable goals. The outside in mentality is client first. Just because something makes it easier for you doesn't make it harder for the client. If it makes it harder for the client, then why would they want to do business with you? You need to find a way to make it both easier for the client and easier for you. You got to think of, what are the low effort, high impact items that you can work on first. The first in, last out concept, no, this is not talking about inventory. Could be perishable inventory maybe, but it's really, are you the first in the office and the last out? If the answer is not no, then you're probably not most committed to your business. So think about that. Having trackable and measurable goals, and a famous quote, progress can't be measured if you can't measure it. Some people debate that, but take it for what it's intended to mean. It means you need to have a way to look at how you're doing and reflect. At last, ask for help when you're stuck. The internet has the answers. And if it doesn't, know when to walk away. That's the most important part. Well, thanks everyone. Again, name is Anthony. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Closing it out. Hope you enjoyed this short presentation. These are thoughts to consider when starting a small business. Anything we want to expound upon, we'll do another video on. Thank you so much.